Alright, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is, why did all large passenger hovercrafts disappear? And where did they go? This is coming from the channel Noctis. Let's go and jump into this immediately, guys. Really quickly, though, when it comes to hovercrafts, I think everyone pretty much thinks that they're cool. I mean, come on, you have to think that the concept of a hovercraft is cool. Like the ability to go on water, then also at the same time on land, right? Yeah, it's cool. But I think the main issue here is that they're not cost effective. They're absolutely purposeless. They are. I mean, think about it. Some of them use like 1,000 to like 1,500 gallons an hour of gas. All right. And they're not super fast. So like you're going to go a pretty long distance that's going to take you more than an hour. And you're not even going to be able to cover fuel costs. Absolutely silly. Okay. It's silly. But I think they're cool to like think about.
Hi there, welcome to Noctis on YouTube.
And also the plastic
Speaking of passenger hovercraft, this type of ship was actually once prosperous and famous in its era.
50s, 60s.
Unfortunately, the popularity of passenger hovercraft has declined until finally this type of ship is no longer operated. So, what actually happened to this type of passenger hovercraft?
I mean, come on, bro, it's cool. It's super cool.
Before discussing further the reasons for the extinction of this ship, you need to know more about the ins and outs of hovercraft. This water vehicle has quite a long history, but specifically, the first modern hovercraft was pioneered by Sir Christopher Cockerell not long after the end of World War II.
Okay.
Interestingly, Cockerell demonstrated the working principle of the hovercraft in an unusual and somewhat eccentric way in England at that time. He experimented with a vacuum cleaner tube and an empty cat food can, as well as a coffee can. After placing the smaller can inside the larger one and blowing air through the smaller can, Cockerell discovered the fact that this can would float above the bottom surface of the larger object.
All right. Not sure I knew the science
was
of it.
called the momentum curtain, where a much more efficient air cushion was created by channeling air downward, precisely into the annular area of the two concentric containers.
Okay.
This produced an enormous lifting force, which also made this concept potentially viable for public operation. His research led him to immediately create a prototype that was ready in 1955. It was this prototype ready in 1955.
Say, a Bentley engine? Rolls-Royce engine? What is this symbol here? Bentley?
It was this prototype that he eventually called the hovercraft, until he obtained a patent a year after he succeeded in making his prototype.
Yeah, guys, looking at this and actually seeing the, like how this was actually created, something tells me that this was before its time. Like sometimes things were definitely there. Like think about it here also. EVs have been around since the beginning of cars. I mean, it was either going to be electric or gas, right? At that time, also steam cars existed. There are all types of crazy hydrogen cars existed, right? But I think a lot of this technology is definitely, we're not ready for it. So whatever this is, if we can figure out a way to make this, not gas oriented, specifically this here. I'm generally not someone who's ready to give up my V8. That's not me. I'm not going to do that, right? But for this type of application, I do think that that's absolutely viable.
However, Cockerell initially faced difficulties, particularly in promoting his invention to the British Navy, Army, and Air Force. After various failed attempts, Cockerell obtained funding from the National Research Development Corporation to build the world's first practical hovercraft, the Saunders Roe Nautica 1, or SRN-1. At its debut in 1959, the SRN-1 immediately attracted public attention. Its unique appearance, with a protruding cylindrical middle section that housed the engine and fans, caught people's eyes. The main engine used on this ship was a 450 horsepower radial piston aircraft engine. This allowed it to rotate powerful fans, generating a vertical lifting force and a similar forward thrust force to lift an aircraft. The air cushion was created by the large fan underneath. To prevent too much air from escaping, a skirt, which was essentially a massive inflatable ring, was fitted around the ship.
Okay.
Like aircraft, weight played a crucial role in the efficiency of the SRN-1.
Probably balance also, where you're putting things.
Hence, the ship's hull and fuel tanks were made of riveted aluminum alloy sheets. However, the most impressive aspect of this prototype was its speed. The SRN-1 managed to cross the English Channel in just 2 hours. This achievement left many people around the world in awe of its capabilities. Although it seemed impressive, this prototype still had many shortcomings. One of its drawbacks was the relatively low clearance of only 9 inches, which was considered disruptive to stability, safety, and comfort.
I can imagine.
It's worth noting that almost no ship had a smooth sailing across the English Channel. That area is known for its extreme weather and high waves, so a radical solution was needed for this ship. An English researcher named Cecil Latimer Needham suggested using a double rubber skirt, which could move the momentum curtain farther from the bottom, raising the height to 3.9 feet. This design proved to limit the airflow and lifting power. As a result, the next prototype was made with a double U-shaped rubber skirt with holes at the bottom.
Okay, so I like the idea, right, of obviously adding the skirt and making it, slightly off of the ground here, right? But my only concern is, does that even change anything? Because still, by definition, the rubber skirt itself would still be 9 inches off of the ground. Is that what I'm hearing here? You'll still feel every single thing that's happening beneath you. I get it. This probably was excessively uncomfortable to fly. How do we define this? Hover? Yeah, let's say hover. Yeah, this was. I'm sure you felt every single thing as you were floating. The lingo is interesting here, yeah? Floating over the sea.
U-shaped rubber skirt with holes at the bottom.
Channel.
This design became the basic blueprint for future hovercraft.
Max speed 50 knots.
Seeing the growing popularity of British-made hovercraft in the following decade, several
roughly 60 miles an hour almost.
Countries began experimenting with air cushion vehicles similar to hovercraft.
Okay.
One such country was France, with its N500 Naviplane capable of reaching speeds of 74 knots or around 85 miles per hour.
Wow.
However, this French-built ship still could not compete with the British-based hovercraft.
I mean, for it to be that size and actually that fast, that feels like that's a lot faster than anything I've ever been in on the water. That size.
The high popularity and market demand prompted the manufacturer to immediately produce 6 SRN-4 Mountbatten class vehicles. Believe it or not, everything about the SRN-4 was beautiful and robust. The Mountbatten class hovercraft was powered by 4 Rolls-Royce gas turbine engines with a cumulative power of 13,600 horsepower, capable of reaching speeds of up to 70 knots or 80 miles per hour.
Okay.
The length of the SRN-4 series hull was 185 feet with enough room for 60 cars and 400 passengers. The most notable feature of this ship, from the skirt upwards, was the 4 Dowry-Rodal propellers, which at the time were the largest propellers in the world.
Guys, bring hovercrafts
The specifications of this ship were almost more akin to an aircraft than a ship, except that this mode of transportation moved on water. The advanced technology of hovercraft made this modern passenger ship even more popular in the 1970s and 1980s.
Yeah, bring them back now,
One example
guys.
was the Princess Margaret hovercraft, released in 1968, which managed
This is way too cool.
to cross the strait in just 35 minutes. However, in 1995, the Princess Anne hovercraft set a new record, making the fastest crossing of the strait in just 22 minutes. However, the fact is that operating a hovercraft required a high level of skill. This was because the ship's steering mechanism was very heavy, which could be a challenge even for experienced pilots. This ship was also still relatively vulnerable in the face of bad weather at sea, particularly the Princess Margaret. The giant ship collided with the dock at the entrance to the port of Dover on March 30th, 1985, while traveling from Calais. This incident caused 4 deaths and many injuries.
Wow, dude.
The ship suffered severe damage.
Yeah, that's done.
Seeing this incident, you might think that this was the reason for the deactivation of hovercraft.
No, generally, if people invested a gigantic amount of money into making these things, one incident like this will not shut it down. Example, if the Titanic sunk, right, and it was all over the world, right, we shouldn't have any boats if that was the same concept.
However, this incident was not the main reason why hovercraft became extinct. Mechanical problems,
to
financial
operate.
issues, and competition from newer ships were what ultimately led to the demise of hovercraft in the shipping world. Mechanically, the ship's skirt had limitations, only capable of handling waves no higher than 8 feet.
Okay.
Therefore, if a voyage was planned but bad weather struck, the trip would automatically be cancelled.
Oh.
This had a negative financial impact on the operators.
Can imagine.
Additionally, hovercraft consumed as much as 500 gallons of fuel oil per trip, which was considerably more wasteful than modern passenger ships.
Yeah, and that's the big concern. Like I recall, like the only real issue with these things was the fact that they would literally drink gas much faster than airplanes or even ships would. Think about these propellers, guys. They're bigger than anything else that you see, and it takes a lot of momentum to move it. Then they're also putting gigantic engines that are drinking gas, and they have to run at basically full capacity, right? Almost at all times to be able to move the gigantic amount of weight that it's attached to. Yeah.
Not only
I
that,
think it was like 1,500 pounds an hour or something like that. Let me find out.
but other competition also emerged, both from other ships and alternative modes of transportation. One example was the emergence of high-speed catamaran ferries in the 1970s. The construction of catamaran ferries was considered much cheaper, easier to operate, and more comfortable for passengers. In terms of alternative modes of competition, the Channel Tunnel began operating on May 6, 1994, also launching the high-speed Eurostar train. Interest in hovercraft ships declined drastically, and they were eventually retired from the maritime world.
Guys, it comes out to 12 to 15 or so gallons a minute of gas per engine.
After being officially deactivated, all passenger hovercraft were dismantled, and some valuable parts of these ships can still be seen at the Hovercraft Museum in Lee-on-the-Solent, England.
I definitely hope a lot of these materials were recycled because something tells me that they're very valuable.
Among other collections, many visitors claim that the dismantled SRN-4 Princess Margaret from 2018 and the Princess Anne appeared very impressive and sturdy. The only remaining operator today is Hover Travel, which runs a regular service between Portsmouth and Ryde with the help of 2 Griffon hovercraft.
Where is that?
Keep them as warm as possible.
Portsmouth.
Just keep them rolling.
Yeah.
Although hovercraft ships no longer operate as they once did, their
Large.
presence and unique technology will remain etched in the hearts of many people.
All right, guys, I definitely just looked up. I wanted to see, right, really quickly, if they're even like still out there. Apparently, you can buy one right now, brand new. They're still building them. There's a whole website selling just hovercrafts. Of course, it's a website for everything. There is no price associated to it, so I have no idea how much they're actually valued at. But based off the technology, you can imagine they're pretty expensive. Apparently, they're roughly, here goes, a two-person hovercraft, 14,000. That's actually not bad. Not as much as I thought it was going to be. Pretty much based off the fact that it's going to be a toy. And this is a two-person one that can travel at 60 miles an hour. Yeah, 14,000. I mean, think about it. People spend much more than that on UTVs. ATVs are probably somewhere around there for a good one. Jeeps and off-road vehicles, all types of fun outdoor activities. People spend for those all day long, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if someone pulled up in a hovercraft. Are hovercrafts street legal? So apparently they're illegal. Obviously, why would you want to see a hovercraft on the street, right, guys? But apparently at one time they were not illegal in the United States of America. The last state that finally made it illegal was California. All right, how fast is a personal hovercraft? How about this? The smaller ones apparently are more fuel efficient than boats, allegedly, is what they're saying here. That's intriguing. Guys, I think more people should know these things. Guys, if you are one of those outdoorsy individuals who likes, I don't know, doing outdoors activities, right, with off-road vehicles and boats and things like that, guys, go get yourself a hovercraft. All right? I want to see you guys out on the lake in them. That'll be fun. But all right, listen. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.